Welcome to the Sonoma County Winegrape Commission's Winegrape Chronicles. In this monthly series, we'll follow several Sonoma County growers and winemakers through a typical winemaking season, giving you a glimpse into the process behind making some of the world's finest wines.
I'm Steve Sangiacomo from Sangiacomo Family Vineyards, and I want to introduce Mark Cuneo from Sebastini Winery. We're out here meeting as we do monthly to discuss what's going on in the vineyards with his blocks and to discuss how we can incorporate our viticultural techniques for the 2007 season to make the best wine we can.
I'm Mark Cuneo from Sebastini Winery, and we're out here today just looking at the stages of the vine and where we are here in the middle of March and the bud break, really the first cycle of the vine's growing season for 2007. Beautiful day out here in Sonoma Carneros. I see everything's pruned out nicely to two bud spurs.
Absolutely. We kind of went through, and the pruning cycle is, we do it right during the dormancy season when the vines are asleep, for lack of a better term. And so we've gone back and we've tried to spread out the spurs to where we get some even shoot position through the year, and we'll hopefully in the next week or two go through and start suckering off some of these buds. So as usual, as we've done the last few years, or for many years, we're going to go through and kind of sucker these buds down to one shoot, and any other little adventitious buds that'll grow through the growing cycle, we'll go through and knock all those off.
This time of the year, the middle of March, actually off to a great start. You're seeing the ground start to dry up a little bit, and really a nice bud push going on. Obviously we've got that concern about spring frost coming, but hopefully
yeah, and you'll see
okay.
we planted some cover crop here, so we have some rye, some vetch, and some bell beans that'll help really absorb that kind of winter moisture and spring rains that we'll get. It's been a somewhat dry year, but we always get those March and April rains that'll kind of kick off the spring season. So one thing we'll do is we'll go through and we'll mow so we can really keep that cover crop to absorb any moisture that we get late in the season.
The bud cycle in growth looks to be pretty even. What else are we kind of seeing here as far as bud growth, in your opinion, in the way these shoots are going to take off?
Yeah, we're off to a good start. About 2 weeks ago, these vines are still in dormancy, but we've had 2 weeks of really nice warm weather, and the vines have like you touched on, are gotten off to a really good even start. Probably the next, as these vines grow out to about 2 inches, we're going to go through and we're going to head sucker, and we're going to go through and take off one shoot per bud. Our ideal situation is we have about 6 spurs, as we call, 6 to 7, and so we're going to want two shoots per bud, per spur. So at the end we're going to have 16 shoots coming up at this time. So, and the head suckering process kind of works as there's 2 shoots coming out of this bud, so we'll go through and knock off one bud to get down to the
2 growing points.
2 growing points, exactly. These buds here, these are going to be our pruning positions for the following year. So we're going to really try and keep this shoot position as low as we can, because we don't want that fruit zone getting up too high, because then you get some uneven ripening flavors across the board. So we're going to really focus on making sure when we go through and sucker that we really keep those lower shoot positions, just so we can keep that even fruit position and fruit zone position.
Right, all goes back to kind of a uniformity and really creating a likeness in the vine, so there's not a whole lot of differentiation from vine to vine. And we can really see that, I think, when we taste these wines that came off this location later. You'll see that nice balanced flavor that really comes from a vineyard that's in balance and not showing a lot of underripe character from one vine and overly ripe on another vine. And I think that you can even see that on one vine if one side's out of balance and the other side is kind of balanced. So Steve, now that we have bud break essentially happening and the vine's starting to grow, there's always that threat of a cold morning or a frost hitting.
Yeah, as vines come out of dormancy, Mark, we're really susceptible to early morning freezes, and so March and April are our 2 busiest times when it comes to frost protection. So when temperatures get down to the freezing level around 32 degrees, there's 2 methods of frost protection that we use. We have wind machines that are big propellers that'll blow, as warm air rises, it'll blow the warm air down to the level of the vines so those shoots won't freeze. And then we also use overhead frost protection, where we we sprinkle the vines with water, and then that sprinkling with the freezing temperatures freezes around the buds, and it creates like an insulation, a cocoon, so those buds won't burn. And it's very, it's a big challenge and threat to us as farmers, because what can happen in those early morning freezes, if we don't frost protect, then these shoots will freeze and burn and die. And these shoots essentially carry our fruit for the coming year, and so we could lose our whole crop.
Right. It's amazing to think that actually a freezing jacket of water around that vine, around this bud, is actually warmer than that bud essentially out by itself, and that's what the sprinklers end up doing. So really amazing way to protect the green growing material.
Yeah, we do get that question a lot. Why are you sprinkling water on when the vine is freezing? But the whole idea is freezing is a warming process in itself, but that whole insulation and cocoon really protects that bud from freezing.
Here's the 2006 from the Sangiacomo Vineyard over there, Steve, and you'll see 2006 was one of those great years for Pinot Noir. Great color, a long ripening season as we picked this block, I believe, October 6th of last year, and I mean, I think for Pinot Noir it was one of those things that just had that real nice color, long maturity, gives those skins a lot more color, which really is about 90% of all the chemicals in red wine comes from the skins. I mean, you see the fermentation and all those processes are really designed to extract more of that color. And I think all the techniques that you guys did throughout the year out there, as far as working with those vines to get the right balance, to get those intense flavors, it really shows in this wine.
Yeah, and ultimately the vine balance we talked about with the pruning and the suckering and stuff, we were able to really establish that early, so the vine could really focus on developing flavors in those grapes. And I'm amazed at the amount of intensity in this wine.
It really comes down to, we like to use the term wine growing. What you guys have done all year is essentially growing this wine out in the vineyard. We just end up taking the fruit and turn it into wine.
Yeah, Mark, as we walk through the barrel room here, I noticed that you got some other varieties aging and kind of coming into their own here. You got some Chardonnay, Cabernet, and Pinot Noir as well. Right.
I mean, this is really this time of year, Steve. We're here at the winery. Essentially, all these wines are fermented dry. They're all actually wine now. No more sugar left in the juice. They have all their alcohol, and they have essentially all their flavor. But what we're doing here is letting these wines kind of come together. You hear the term about kind of aging and what really goes on, and it's amazing how wine really does have a life of its own and just kind of starts to morph into a slightly different product over time. So we're trying to really manipulate that with each one of these wines. All of those stages, from how we water a vineyard, what you guys are doing in your irrigation management, to tilling the soil, to the cover crops that have been planted, all play out in this final product. And the greatest part about this time of year is that we can actually see it and taste it. It took, for some of these wines, it goes back all the way to September and October, but over this time, we can really see this quality and see those techniques that we've done in the vineyard that really showcase and really come out, I think, in the final wines. Well, Steve, here we are at Sebastini Winery here in Sonoma Valley. I mean, you can see a beautiful place to come visit. And we're sitting here tasting the wine that we made off the grapes from your place, our Sebastini Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir from 2005.
It's nice to see the evolution of the wine from, obviously vineyard. Now we saw barrel. Now we're seeing the final end product, and it's, just the distinctiveness of, the varieties from Sonoma County are what amazes me. I mean, this is what it ultimately comes down to. This is what we do what we do,
right?
To make products that are enjoyable, they're approachable, they're food friendly, and that's what we're all about.
Right, that's true. Well, cheers. Here's to another good vintage.
Absolutely.